Today we're going to talk about something that most people get wrong when they're trying to change their lives. They think that deciding to be different is enough. People will say, I want to become a healthy person. I want to set bigger goals. I want to be more disciplined. I want to be the kind of person who works out consistently or reads the Bible consistently. I want to be somebody who does something consistently. And they think that that declaration alone, that decision, is the transformation, but it's not. And here's the truth. Your identity is not built by what you say, it's built by what you do repeatedly. You don't become a healthy person by wanting to be healthy. You become a healthy person by acting like a healthy person over and over and over again until the evidence is undeniable, until you have the receipts, and until you look at your life and you can't argue with the data. The formula for identity transformation is action plus repetition equals evidence. And evidence is what shifts your identity. So today I'm going to break down exactly how this works. I'm going to talk about why most people fail at changing their identity and what you need to do to make that shift permanent so you don't fall into the same trap as everybody else. Because identity change is not a light bulb moment. It's a slow build. It's a compounding process. And it's a series of small actions that add up to proof. But once you have that proof, everything changes. So let's go. So here's what I see all the time. Someone decides they want to change. They want to be fit. They want to be healthy, strong, disciplined, more intelligent, more articulate. So they wake up one day and they say, that's it. I'm going to start working out. I'm going to start reading more. I'm going to start eating clean. I'm going to start studying. I'm going to transform my body, my mind, my soul, my future. And for the first few days, they're all in, they're fired up, they're ready to go, they're going to the gym, they're reading their books, they're doing their devotionals, they're tracking their food. They feel motivated and energized and proud. But then a week goes by, 2 weeks, a month, and they don't feel like that fit person yet. They don't feel more intelligent. They don't feel like they're in alignment with that fired up version that they said they wanted to be. They still feel like the person who's trying to be fit. They look in the mirror and they don't see the transformation they were expecting, or the scale hasn't moved as much as they wanted it to, or maybe they haven't gotten a job promotion that proves that they, have become more articulate or more grounded or more faithful or whatever it is that they've been trying to do. Their clothes fit the same and they feel like an imposter. So they quit because they were waiting to feel like that person, the person in the identity that they were trying to change. But it's backwards. You don't feel like a fit person and then act like one. You act like a fit person repeatedly until the evidence forces you to believe it. Because the reality is your identity is not just a decision. It's not just a declaration or a feeling. Your identity is a story you tell yourself based on the evidence of your past actions. So if you don't have the evidence yet, if you've been showing up for a few days, a few weeks, but you haven't built the identity yet, then you're just working on habit building. And that's okay because that's where everyone starts. But you have to keep going because the identity shift doesn't happen on day 3 or day 10 or even 30. It happens when the thing you're doing becomes who you are. And for everybody, that time frame is going to be different. So let's break this down with a real example. Let's say you want to become a healthy, fit, muscular toned person. Right now, you're not that person and you know it. Your body knows it, your habits know it. You're inconsistent, you eat whatever is convenient, you don't work out regularly, you're tired, you're sluggish, you're not happy with how you look or feel, but you know you want to change. So you start, you commit to going to the gym 3 days a week. You commit to tracking your macros. You commit to eating 100 plus grams of protein every day and drinking your water. So what happens? Week 1 is the action week. You show up, you go to the gym 3 times, you track your food, you hit your protein goal most days, and you know what? It feels hard. It feels uncomfortable and it feels like effort. You don't feel like a fit person. You feel like someone who's just trying to be fit. You feel like an imposter, but that's okay because you are taking action on the goal. That action is the first step. So what happens next is the repetition, weeks 2 through 4. You keep going. You keep showing up again and again. Some days are easier, some days are harder, but you don't quit. And slowly you start to notice small shifts. Your energy gets better. You're not as tired in the afternoons. Your sleep sleeping better, you're not as bloated, you're waking up feeling more rested. Your clothes are fitting a little bit differently, your pants might be a little bit looser, and the scale might have dropped a few pounds. But here's the thing, you still don't fully believe you're a fit person yet because you've done this time and time again in the past, because you've only been doing this for a few weeks, and in your mind, fit people have been doing this for years. So you still feel like you're just pretending, you're just checking the boxes, and you're just going through the motions. And that's normal because the identity shift hasn't happened yet. You're still in the repetition phase. So what happens next is the evidence, and that's months 2 through 3. Something changes. You've been showing up for a couple months, 2 months, 3 months. You haven't missed more than a handful of workouts. You've been consistent with your nutrition, and now the evidence is piling up. You've lost 10 pounds, maybe 15. Your clothes fit completely differently. You're putting on things you haven't been able to wear for years, and people are starting to notice, and they're asking, have you lost weight? What are you doing? You look great. But the biggest win is your energy is through the roof. You're getting stronger in the gym. You're lifting heavier weights than you thought you could. You're tracking your food without even thinking about it. It's just what you're doing now. And then one day you realize you're not just someone who works out. You are someone who is getting fit. And you're not just someone who tracks their food. You're someone who prioritizes their health. And you're not just trying to be disciplined. You are disciplined. And the receipts are there. That is where the identity shift starts to happen. But it doesn't happen because you decided to be different. It happened because you acted like the person you wanted to become repeatedly until the proof showed up and until the evidence was undeniable. But the key is you need the receipts. What most people don't understand is you will not believe you've changed until there's proof. And proof doesn't come from one workout, one healthy meal, one day of doing your devotional, one day of praying with your kids. Proof comes from repetition. And proof comes from looking back over a few months, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, and seeing that you showed up consistently, even when it was hard, even when you didn't feel like it. The proof comes from the data. You worked out 12 weeks in a row, 3 to 4 times per week. You hit your protein goal 80% of the time. You lost 15 pounds. You are lifting heavier than you were 3 months ago. You have more energy, better sleep, clearer skin. And on the other side, say your goals are to start reading more. You've read a couple books. You start doing your devotional. You've done it every day consistently for a couple months. Praying with your kids, you're checking that box every night with them, and that is part of who they're becoming too. And this applies to anything. This could be about bettering your marriage, scheduling date nights, going to play tennis, visiting your parents, spending time with your friends. There are so many different things that this can apply to, but in life, the identity of who we say we want to be, we have to have the actions and the proof long term to prove it. That's the evidence, and that is what shifts your identity. Because now you can say, I am a fit person. It's not a wish, it's not a goal, it's a declaration, it's a fact. Or maybe it's, I'm a reader, or I'm an active husband, I'm a tennis player, I'm a runner, whatever it may be. You have the receipts to prove it. And James Clear talks about this in the book Atomic Habits. It's one of my favorite books. And he says, every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. So 1 workout, that's a vote. 2 workouts, that's 2 votes. 12 weeks of consistent workouts, that's a landslide. And at that point, you're not trying to convince yourself you're a fit person. You just are, because the evidence is overwhelming. And people ask me all the time, when does identity shift happen? How long does it take? When will I be this person? But here's the truth. It's different for everyone, but there is a pattern. And you have to remember, when I look at my health, my fitness journey, there are certain things in my life that they are part of my identity. It's non-negotiable. Getting my steps in, hitting my protein, going to the gym, lifting weights, those are all part of what I do. I do a daily devotional in the morning. I go on walks with my kids. We pray every night. We say grace at dinner. I have date nights with my husband every week. We travel internationally. Those are things that are part of my identity and who I am and who I believe I am. And if people were to ask, what are the hills you die on? These are some of those things. So there's a pattern to getting to that space that it just becomes who you are and not what you do. So days 1 through 14 are about building habits. In your first 2 weeks, you're just trying to be consistent. You're building the habit, you're checking the box, you're showing up when it's uncomfortable, but you don't feel like that person yet. You're just somebody who's trying, and that's okay because everyone starts there. Weeks 3 through 8, that's when we start to see results with what we're doing, whether it's reading and we're getting more articulate, whether it's our Bible and we're feeling more grounded and faithful, whether it's praying with our kids and we're starting to see the shift in them, whether it's investing in our marriage and having deep conversations conversations with our spouse every day. Weeks 3 through 8, you start to see results. So weeks 3, 4, and 5, you'll see small changes. Your energy will improve, your brain will feel clearer, you might lose a couple pounds. It's gonna start to feel easier to do the task, but you still don't fully believe it yet. You're still waiting for the real transformation. You're in the evidence gathering phase, and you're building the case for yourself. But what happens is months 3 through 6, that's where the identity shift magic starts to happen, which is why in our coaching program, we only offer 6 and 12-month programs, because we know oftentimes it takes at least 6 months for people to start to develop this identity shift. And if we're being honest, typically it takes people a full year to undo 30 years of habits and mindsets. But this is where the magic happens. By month 3, you've been consistent for 12 plus weeks. You've worked out maybe 30, 40, 50 times. You've done your daily devotional a handful of times. You've started going to church, praying with your kids, having date nights with your wife. You start seeing the evidence of the change that is coming from your actions, and it starts to become undeniable. You're not the same person you were 3 months ago, and you know it. You don't have to convince yourself anymore. You don't have to psych yourself up. You don't have to stay motivated. You just show up because that's who you are. The habit has started to become your baseline, and working out isn't something you do. It is part of who you are, and that's the identity shift. And really, once we get to month 6, that's when people have proven it to themselves through season changes, through work stress, maybe the kids getting in and out of school, maybe holidays, birthdays, whatever it may be, because those are the times that we get thrown off track, is when we have big life changes, big events. And that's where people typically quit. But the mistake that most people make is quitting before the big shift happens. And that's where most people fail. They show up for a few weeks, maybe a month. They see a little bit of progress, but they don't feel different yet. So they think it's not working. So they think, I've been doing this for a month and I don't feel like a fit person. I don't feel like this is easy yet. Maybe this just isn't for me. And they quit. And I always tell people, don't quit before the miracle, because you have to give yourself enough time and space. You have to think, if you had these bad habits, these habits that go against the identity you want for 30, 40 years, it's going to take more than a couple weeks to shift your mindset, to shift your habits, to shift your defaults. But you got to give yourself that time and energy and space to make it happen. So you quit right before the shift is about to happen, because the shift doesn't happen in week 2 or 4 or even 8. Sometimes it happens when you've built out enough evidence that you can't argue with it anymore. And that takes time and repetition. It takes showing up when you don't see the results yet. And you have to trust the process before you see the proof. I like to bring this back to Hebrews 11:1. It says, "Now faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see." You have to have the faith that the actions you're taking are building something, that they're changing you, even when you can't see it yet, even when you don't feel different yet, and even when the scale isn't moving, or your marriage still feels rocky, or your faith doesn't feel stronger. We have to keep going because the shift is coming, but only if you stay consistent long enough to build the evidence. Here's the principle I want you to walk away with. You don't change your identity first and then change your actions. You change your actions first and your identity follows. Most people wait to feel like that person before starting the action, and that's not how it goes. They wait to feel disciplined before they start showing up consistently. They wait to feel confident before they start making the change, but it's backwards. You will never feel like the person you want to become if you don't start acting like that person. You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel like a runner. You become a runner by running repeatedly, one day at a time, until one day you realize, I am a runner. This is easy now. It's something I can do. It's not hard. You don't wake up one day and suddenly feel like a healthy person. You become a healthy person by eating healthy, working out, prioritizing sleep repeatedly, until one day you realize, I am healthy now. So it's action first, identity shift second, not the other way around. So I want to challenge you. You have to give yourself at least 90 days. Pick one identity you want to build. Maybe it's, I'm a fit person. I'm a disciplined person. I'm a morning person. I'm a person who prioritizes their health. I have a strong marriage. I'm a person who follows through. I'm a reader. I'm a runner. I'm a person who spends quality time with my kids every day. Now ask yourself, what does that person do? If you were to describe this person you're trying to be, think about somebody who is that and you want to become like them. What did they do differently than you you do. If you're a fit person, you probably work out 3 to 4 times per week. You hit your protein goal every day. You prioritize your sleep. If you're disciplined, what do? Do you check off all the boxes on your tasks every day? Do you get things done that you said you were going to get done? If you're a morning person, do you wake up at the same time every day? You don't snooze. You have a solid morning routine or an evening routine that makes the mornings easier. Whatever the identity is that you're trying to step into, we have to reverse engineer the actions and then commit to those actions for 90 days. Not 7 days, not 30 days, but at least 90 days, bare minimum, because that's how long it takes to start building some of that evidence. And that's how long it takes for the habit to become your baseline. That's how long it takes for the identity shift to start to grab on. And what I can promise you is if you show up consistently for 90 days, if you take the actions repeatedly, even when it's hard, even when you're not seeing the results, you will not be the same person on day 91 as you were on day 1. You will have evidence, you'll have receipts, and you'll know, not hope, not wish, but truly know that you are the person you set out to become. Because action plus repetition equals evidence. And evidence is what builds your identity. So the bottom line is, you are not what you say. You are not what you think. You are not what you wish. You are not what you dream. You are what you repeatedly do. And Aristotle said it best. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence then is not an act, but a habit. So if you want to be fit, act like a fit person repeatedly until the receipts show it. If you want to be disciplined, act like a disciplined person repeatedly. If you want to be a healthy, strong, confident, powerful person, act like that person repeatedly. And one day, and sooner than you think, you're going to look back on the last 3 months, the last 6 months, the last year, and you're going to realize you're not trying to be that person anymore. You are that person. It's your baseline. It's just what you do. It's part of who you are because you have the evidence, you have the receipts, and no one, not even you, can argue with that. So we have to stop waiting to feel different, and we need to start acting differently and let the evidence build our identity. So we have to decide, who do I want to be? How does that person live? And what actions do I need to take to get there? And start. Because you can't get there if you don't start taking the actions. And once you start taking the actions, the identity will build itself.